Hello, I'm Buster Bounds, here to introduce this feature archive film from our little corner of the world, Center, Texas. This feature is a complete meeting of the Center Noon Lions Club from 2012. It shows our typical meeting format and features a very popular local speaker, Mr. Jim Forbes, our local weatherman. Jim was asked to put into perspective the unusual weather we incurred in 2011. And as you remember, 2011 was a very hot, very dry year. He did, as you will see in the video. Also included is some of the spice of our club meetings. I've often thought of our club meetings as being a classroom of sixth grade bad boys when the teacher took an opportunity to step out of the room for a moment. Our club was formed in 1941 and has operated continuously since then, with the exception of the war years of World War II. Before any shout outs from current members, no, I was not in the club when it was organized. But I am soon to celebrate my 50th year of membership and have many fond memories of club work and club fun. And there really is a rose on our thorny bush of merriment. In recent times, we have donated over $1 million to worthy local organizations from our fundraising activities. Just remember, fellow Lions and our community, we plan on restarting as soon as possible. When? To paraphrase a radio theme from my youth, only the virus knows. So from October 25th, 2012, the Center Noon Lions Club.
Welcome, everybody. Bronwyn, would you do the prayer, please?
I will. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the day. We thank you for all the many blessings we have at your hands. Lord, we thank you for what we're about to hear as a good weather report for the last year with regard to rainfall. Lord, we thank you for blessing us. I ask you to be with us as we go about doing the business of the Lions Club and how we help support the community. I ask that your blessing be on all that we do. Forgive us our many sins where we fail you. I ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. My teacher will do the prayer.
Yes, sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Where's Louis?
You know, a lot of us have ambitions that will probably never be fulfilled. My ambition has always been to be an Oscar Mayer winner.
I wish I were an Oscar Mayer winner. That is what I'd really like to be. If I were an Oscar Mayer winner, everyone would be in love with me.
I'll be glad you got it.
Do we have any guests today? Any announcements? Okay. Jokes. Who has some jokes today? No jokes? Okay. Okay. Let's go straight to the speaker. Our speaker today is Jim Forbes. He's going to come talk to us about the weather from this past year compared to what we've had this year.
Thank you, James. I didn't know you was glutton for punishment, but back again, and it's so good to be here today, and it's so nice to be able to look at the calendar and see that it's only October the 25th. With all the junk on our table that gets on it at times where we throw the mail, I wonder if I missed Thanksgiving. And baseball season started 2 weeks ago, and they're playing in the World Series. And if you don't know who Pablo Sandoval is, you will soon learn. And in his home run hitting, but it seems like everything goes so fast, and this time of year is a very favorite time of year for me. I love the fall. I have one bitter pill that every fall comes up, and I kind of want to cry on your shoulders a little while. But if you have a family member that has Alzheimer's, regardless of the stage that they are diagnosed in, and that family member lives by themselves, you pay very close attention to them. I had an Aunt Madge Tigg. She was a lieutenant colonel, retired from the Army, graduated from high school in Meade, Arkansas, got her nursing degree in Little Rock, worked 1 year in Fort Smith, joined the United States Army in 1940. She went ashore with the second wave on Omaha Beach, established a hospital, wore 45 on her hip that she could dot I's with, and made it through all of those years, and finally retired and lived in San Antonio. And she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's in the late 90s. And we got to where we paid more close attention to Aunt Madge. And if you don't believe that charitable organizations won't prey on a person that they find out that that person's got Alzheimer's, you're in for a surprise. There was stuff charged to Aunt Madge's credit cards that was unbelievable. They finally got her credit card number. She changed phones 8 times in 18 months. And these places would call her and say, Colonel Tigg, we've missed your donation this year. Could you give us one? And she'd say, well, I thought I did that about a month ago. And they said, no, we ain't got anything from you this year. And a bunch of those organizations from September through December got constant flow of money from Aunt Madge. I think she fed every little Indian from California to Maine 2 or 3 times, and I don't know how many suits of clothes she sent overseas. But please, if you've got a family member anywhere down the line of kinfolks and they live by themselves, be sure that somebody or a close friend finds out about their phone bills, their credit cards, anything whatsoever. And you could be around Madge those early years, and you can tell there's anything wrong. You know, you'd notice little things. But I hush on that. But every time this time of year, when we get all this stuff that's on the table and this and that, I tease about it. I think I've missed Thanksgiving, but I also think about how she was treated all of those years in San Antonio, to be especially careful on somebody like that. And I have a few facts and figures and that for you today, and I get amused at statistics and facts and figures. You know, government agencies spend millions of dollars every year on something like that to give you some kind of stat. And the Department of Commerce here not too long ago issued one, said people that keep having birthdays live the longest. And I don't know how many years or how many millions of dollars they spent on that thing when all that they had done was call Grover at the nursing home. She was 103 last week, and she could have told them without spending all that money. But I've been 18 years on the city council, and it doesn't seem like it's been more than 6, and the growth of Center absolutely amazes me. I can't leave my house and drive 2 city blocks without seeing something different, something better. And it's most certainly not because I was on the city council. I learned many years before the council that the foundation of any Center News Lion Club or the City of Center, the word "we" is the foundation of that organization, of that club, of that city. The structure we're meeting in today, I think the world of it. I'm so proud that we were able to build this Civic Center. And we've had people come from all over East Texas, came here from Louisiana to look at this Civic Center, and they said, y'all are head and shoulders above any place we've gone to look at. We've had chairmen of committees from different cities come, and I'm so proud of that. And so proud of some of our projects. You take our projects that are going on, our streetscape project on the square. Now it's still months away from really starting doing the foundation of that particular program, but it will come down the way. Our sidewalk projects, the contracts have been let, and I believe they start on that about the middle of November. And that will be a nice project. I think the biggest hit with all the mamas and kids is the new playground behind the library with a splash ground that's on it. They wouldn't let any of us on it, but I tried one thing. I won't do that again. I got on that spinning ride with some kids, and I had to beg for one kid to drag his feet and stop. And that was quite an experience. Another thing you're going to see that's new in a short period of time is the new traffic light at Timpson, Tenaha, and Porter Street. It's going to kind of put a little hitch in your travel. If you're coming from Farmers Bank Drive-In or Bowles Field, you will not be able to go down Porter Street and turn left at Timpson Street. You'll have to go to the square or either go down to Church Street, turn left, and then turn right on Tenaha Street. I hope that will help in traffic congestion at school time. And in the afternoons, I had a member of the highway department tell me that you're going to be sorry you put that in. It's going to back up more traffic than what you can believe. I'll have to see it and believe it, because another member of TxDOT said we didn't need a traffic light at her street and Rough Rider Drive in Timpson. And wasn't justified to put that traffic light in there. But that will be one of the changes, one of the great projects that are coming up, which, you know, you don't hear many oohs and ahs over a sewer project. But we've got a project coming up on that, and I had no idea what we spent on the number of lift stations around over Center. We spend about $60,000 a year to pump it uphill when it should run downhill. And we can save about $300,000 a year by just rearranging that where it'll flow the direction it's supposed to. But that's just some of the projects that we've had going on that are taking place, and now to get down to the excuse me on the other, but get down to the weather part. As you see, I gave you a sheet there that shows all of 2011's weather, and through October the 21st of this year, you survived the hottest summer that you've ever been in Center Texas. I'm not too certain about the dry part of it. Those that were here in the 50s, you went through the driest part of ever that we have weather records on, all through the 50s and 55 on. There's a number of records that if you go to, you will check that least amount of rainfall and stuff like that occurred in your 50s. And you take one of the most dry years ever recorded was in the 50s. The coldest morning occurred in the 50s, 51. It was 0 in February 1951. And some of the statistics, they've got a new one out now that I hadn't heard before. They say that January 2012 and September 2012, those 2 months were the warmest during this year since they've been in 1875. You know, I didn't keep any records back then, but I guess they're right on it. They say nationwide that was the warmest 2 months of those 2 months in the history of weather keeping. The hottest day that Ann and I ever recorded was a Sunday afternoon on September the 2nd, 2000, and it was 112. And I walked outside, and I think watching the ball game on TV, and walked outside, and it's like you opened the door on your oven. We lost enough broiler chickens and laying hens that Sunday afternoon to feed East Texas for a few weeks when that come along. And the coldest morning Ann and I ever recorded at the weather station was 2 degrees. And that was on December the 24th of 1989. And I remember, if you remember that, for any particular reason, the only way I can remember it, Toledo Bend froze over. You could walk from Huxley Bay to Stillwaters, or you could walk from Huxley Bay over to Henderson Brook Lodge over there on the little hill. I did not try that. I didn't have enough nerve, but there was people who walked across Toledo Bend, and patches 2 or 3 acres in size floated around on Toledo Bend there for a week, 10 days after that. And so it was, that's as cold as I ever want to record. I'm not interested in recording record either direction. The most rainfall we've ever recorded, and if you lived here, you very well remember that, was 9.20 inches on September the 15th, 1978. You couldn't get to the center square, you couldn't leave the center square. We got a total rainfall there in 36 hours of about 14 inches. But you couldn't get downtown, and if you was up on the square, you couldn't leave the square. There wasn't any direction to go. It washed the highway out at Shelbyville, and I've never seen it rain any harder than that. There has been one day. Pardon?
What year was that?
It was in 1978, September 1978. And it started one morning, and it didn't quit till noon the next day. And I don't say I could rain it. It barely rained a little bit more than that on November the 23rd, 1940. 9.66 inches was recorded in one day. And one day with the Weather Bureau is 7 a.m. this morning till 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. So a lot of times if you look at official weather report, it's marked down there that it rained on Thursday afternoon, October the 25th, but it is recorded on Friday morning, the 26th at 7 a.m. So it's on about, some weather stations are 7 p.m. to 7 p.m., some weather stations are 7 a.m. to 7 a.m. And the most rainfall we've ever recorded, and actually the most rainfall in 1 month, was 18.94 inches in October 2009. I didn't realize it was that close. The most rainfall in 1 year was 76.20 in 1997. And it started raining in January. Instead of prayers at churches for rain, they were praying, please let it stop if you see fit. Now, we had another year in there that I think was in the 50s that we had 73 inches, but we had 3 inches there that it rained 35, had 3 months there that it rained 35 inches in those 3 months. So that only left the rest of it first of the year. But in 1997, it started in January and it didn't quit till December the 31st. The least rainfall year, and when I said that about the 50s, the least rainfall in 1 year was 30.94 inches in 1956. So I don't know how it was going on in Chevy County at that time, but they set a bunch of records in the 1950s. And that drought that year in 1956 stretched from South Texas to Maryland. It went all the way up through that part of the United States. I was sitting one afternoon in West Virginia and happened to be watching the program, and something come about the weather, and it did show that we were in a severe drought from South Texas all the way up through Arkansas, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Virginia.
That particular drought practically put Shelby County enough rain to make grass enough to support it.
Yeah.
I was in the auction barn business at that time, and they were just flopped in there.
You take last year, we about run out of grass. Yeah, we take last year, we about run out of grass, but that had to have been a terrible dry time. I know when I was working in West Virginia and Virginia with the United States Coast and Geodetic Survey, and even in the apple orchards, you know, that part of the Shenandoah Valley and the east side of West Virginia is on solid rock. You can dig down 2 foot, you're lucky to get 2 foot without running. And there was cracks in the ground a foot 18 inches wide in that part of the country, and where it split apart. And so that was the extreme dry year that we've ever had. If you're ready for a weather change, wait till tomorrow. I've heard anything from 37 to 42, and it seems like they change it every day. Our first frost last year was October the 29th, and we got a light frost on that day, October the 29th. The second sheet I gave you had some little facts and figures you don't see much about, weather extremes for 2011, and he lists a number of those on there. But I did get on down there to have it on there also the number of days of 100-degree days, and which everybody knows, and you've heard it, we said we had 75 days with temperatures 100 and above last year. In that period of time, the old record, we go back to the 50s again, the old record of 60 days, 100 and above, was set in 1954. So according to some of the records, that drought they're talking about and about the livestock, it had to have gone over a 3 or 4 year period. And you know, they were predicting that last year for us, that last year's drought would last 7 years. And it didn't quite make it to that point, thank the Lord. Really, we went into that year with a drought. You take just the year before, in 2010, we only had 36.45 inches, and last year we had 33.25. So really, we went into that year in a drought, what made it so severe. But I can't imagine one that lasted 4 or 5 years. I wouldn't want to live in a spot at that particular time. And it was dry enough to suit me last year, and plenty warm enough to suit me last year. And if you ever have any questions in your business or your home, and you can use anything that has to do with the weather, don't hesitate to call. I get about 6, 7 calls a year. Somebody said, Jim, last week, I think of June, we had a windstorm out here and I had some wind damage. Can you look that up? And I can go back and almost put it to the day by the hour on your weather records. So if you ever have any use for the weather, I used to get a number of calls from industry, and I guess they've got it all down pat now about how many nights of freezing weather we had a year because of the sprinkler system. I used to get a lot of calls from industry on to look up something like that, but I guess they've got it pretty well down on a pattern now where they don't have to do it anymore. On the fun side of it, does anybody here work with a Boy Scout? Anybody? Boy Scout, Cub Scout? They have, or if you teach a Sunday school class, if you want a little bit of something different, the Boy Scouts, I think, got a merit badge on weather for a bunch of years, and I had a number of troop of scouts out at the house. But if you have a Sunday school class and want a little bit of fun out of it, if you can get me their names and age, I can look up the dates for you and tell you what the weather was on that day. And you can give a kid a little old deal in his teens or something, and he can go home and say, Mom, guess what it was doing on the day I was born? And we always remember Angela, our oldest daughter. She was born on July the 1st, 1954 in Magnolia, Arkansas, and it was the hottest day in that part of Arkansas ever been. But it's kind of keen to you to put the kids in it and use something about what the weather was doing on their birthday. But if you have a Sunday school class or a group of kids for any reason, it'll take me a while now. If you got a little league team, you ought to look at about 30 boys on. But I can look back and tell them what the weather was doing if they were born in Center, and tell them what the weather was doing on. But I get a lot of strange requests. I've had calls from California. I don't know what the folks in the East do, but I've had calls from Texas to California to the state of Washington from insurance companies, and I've never had a call past Louisiana. So I don't know what they do on things over there. I've had people call me and tell me, I have a client, his car was severely damaged on the center square because a windstorm blew a sign off a building. And you go back and look at the record, it's pure, clear, sunshiny day, no thunderstorm, no nothing. And so you never know what kind of requests you're gonna get, but it's no problem, and it's a lot of fun to look up anything for you. If you got a bet with your buddy that it did something at a certain time, and you want me to settle the bet, don't get mad at me, give me a call, but I will look it up. Read a cute story here the other day. This old boy was pretty sharp as far as breaking into homes. He had learned how to do away with the alarm systems and all this and all that. He'd been watching a couple pretty closely, and he had pretty much their routine down pat. They both went to work at the same time. They came home at the same time. 3 nights a week, they had a housekeeper in the house in the day. 3 nights a week, they were gone from 7 to 11:30. So he picked one of those nights, go in his house. He had his little old glow light. He had a flashlight in his pocket. He had a little old glow light to keep him stumbling over something. And he got in one room in the house, and a voice out of the dark said, "Jesus is watching you." And he thought, what is going on? He kind of looked around and knew the voice sounded changed, sounded different than a human voice. And pretty soon it said it again, said, "Jesus is watching you." And so he got his flashlight out and he shined around over here in the corner. And here was a cage, and his parrot sitting up there in the cage. And he said, "Well, young man," said, "who are you?" And the parrot said, "I'm Moses." And he laughed real loud and he said, "Moses?" Said, "What crazy people would name their parrot Moses?" The old parrot kind of cocked his eye and tilted his head, waited a few seconds. He said, "The same crazy people that would call their Rottweiler Jesus." So I won't keep you any longer. I'll tell you one more little story. This couple saved up their money for years and decided they'd tour the Holy Land. And they got over there, and she passed away while they were there. And the funeral home, I don't know what they called them over there, was taking care of her. And they told him, said, "Now, we can ship your wife back home for about $5,500, or we can bury her here, and she'd have the honor of being buried in the Holy Land for $385. And he just would not hear of it. And they finally saw they might as well just give up, because the man's going to ship his wife home. And finally, one of the men in charge of this place asked him, said, "Father, would you please tell me why you so set on flying your wife's body back home?" And he said, "Well, partner, it's kind of like this." He said, "A bunch of years ago, a man died over here," and said 3 days later he arose and said he is still alive, and I'm not about to take that chance on that woman. Partners, thank you for inviting me. I enjoyed it.
Jim, is the system we've got now going to continue forever in the future, or are they going to change up how we get our weather data?
Partner, I don't know of any changes they might make in it. You know, they have these bulletins that if you have the little radio and they can call you, they can dial those. I have a little weather radio at the house that they dial from Shreveport and play me off weather forecast on severe weather. On severe weather, I think there's better ways, you know, you can get on a city list to be called also at your home. Call it on your house phone or on your cell phone if you want. If you want it, if you want severe weather called to you on your cell phone, you can turn your name over and your phone number and that to. But as far as national forecasting and things like that, I don't see a whale of a lot of change. With the biggest change we ever made was when we got all the satellites up. And they can pretty much look any spot in the world and tell you what it's doing right now. And they've had that on tides all over the world. That you can punch a button on a machine and give you the tide on any beach in the world. And I don't see much difference in it as far as weather forecasting. A lot of it's still one man's opinion. Like on our temperatures over the weekend, some saying 37, some saying 42. And in East Texas, I think you just take the temperature forecast with a grain of salt because it can change in a minute. But as far as long range stuff, I really don't see any much.
When you retire, are we going to get a replacement? Or if you ever retire, are we going to get a replacement? You don't quit.
More than likely. Ann and I've had it 44 years now. And we have really enjoyed it. It's been a lot of fun. And so we've really enjoyed it. It kind of keeps you occupied. And I had to brag on the kids and our neighbor, Georgia Jones, used to live close to us. But in 44 years to this date, we have never missed a day's recording. Not a day goes by that the weather hadn't been put down. But when we've been gone, the kids have done it. Georgia Jones did it for a number of years. And that was when it was harder to do because you had thermometers outside and had to spin them, rechange them every morning. Now it's all digital in the house. And we got the digital station when we'd had it 25 years. And the head meteorologist at Shreveport said, Jim, when you have it 50, I'll put you a rain gauge that you don't have to go outside and stick a stick in and measure it. I hope I can hold earnest efforts to that. But we've had it 44. Have enjoyed every second of it. Enjoyed being with you today. Thank you.
Anything else for today?
Thank you.
Lions, I'd like to tell Lion Bounds that if he'll call 598-3306, he can get the time, temperature every morning.
A quarter.
I didn't say the name of the organization.
Buster, you're stuck with a commercial too, though.
Anything else? See you next week.